Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Hello, my name is Quentel Smith. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, but more importantly, I'm a survivor of domestic violence. How many of you know someone here, someone that's been affected by domestic violence? Raise your hands, please. Wow. That's impressive, because according to the National Coalition of Domestic Violence, it states that every minute as we sit here, and we've been sitting here for quite some time, that 20 people are being abused at this time. So, as we look at that, a part of what we have to begin to look at some things that we can first begin to do. Let us say together, educate.
Educate.
Because when we're looking at this big, huge epidemic, these people who are being abused, these are mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, grandmas, and etc. And I never forget how I was born. My mother, she always told me the story how my father and her got into this very intense argument. And through the argument, that he threw her through a glass table at just 6 months. And doctors said that because of that incident, that her pregnancy was high risk. And by her pregnancy being high risk, I was delivered at just 6 months. And doctors predicted that I have a 30% delay, mental delay. And so what had happened was, being born at just 6 months, I was just as small. You could just hold me at the palm of your hand. But you can't tell now, But as I shared with you before, as we look at domestic violence, I said before that it affects people and that everyone's been abused. Just look at the city of Richmond. Last year we had a young lady who died. Her ex-boyfriend broke into her house, killed her, and not only killed her, killed her son. Killed her son. Leave your names out. Then we had another incident just this year. They were in the midst of a divorce. And then the estranged husband set out to kill the wife and murdered her boyfriend. And it even was rumored that the son was involved. And now they have, I just did some recent research, now they have posted, said that the family, the person's family was behind all of this. And now they're all being charged. Wow, just think about that. We've seen domestic violence come from professional athletes, boxers, musicians, basketball players. As I said this before, that we have to begin to educate ourselves, the things that we have to begin to do, figure out the things that, the warning signs, things to look for, the things that abusers crave on, and how we can definitely begin to bring families back together and save families. And I never forget my first incident. Now, when I was a kid, I didn't know much about domestic violence. Now, my mother, they always did everything in the room. But I never forget this first incident, which served as a turning point in my life, where I was playing a game with a friend. I grew up in Jacksonville. We had the hard floors and the brick walls, white, painted on white. And we were playing a game. I never forget it. Neighborhood friend, we were just playing a game. And all of a sudden, I just saw her and my mother cry. And I said, what is going on? And she just crying. And her room was adjacent to my room, so I could pretty much hear what was going on. And she yelled, she said, Quentel, tell your company to go home. I said, why is she telling my company to leave? And I said, okay, that's fine. I got up. And it's like time had slowed down for me. And by that had happened, the door was left open. And I never forget, my father was over top of my mother. She was on the floor. And he took this boombox radio and struck her side of the head. Never forget that. That served as a turning point in my life. And I think part of what we have to begin to do, and what this organization and the people here today are doing, we have to begin to take a stand. Something that I'm doing, speaking out against, helping other people get away from these abusers. We have to begin to, let us say together, take a stand.
Take a stand.
Because You see, what happens is, without us educating ourselves, without us taking a stand against this domestic violence, lives are being lost. More lives are being lost more than ever. And it's not just happening here. We had a recent study. We had a recent death. It was a judge. He killed his wife and only served a year. It doesn't make sense. Only served a year. Even in the state of Virginia, if a batterer is convicted, they only have to serve half the sentence. Did you guys know that?
I did.
This is why it's important that we have to begin to take a stand against it. And the sad part is what we have to look at. It seems like laws work more so for the person who's doing the crime versus the person who for the victims. So, as I said before, as I took a stand, and the one thing that really led to me turning that relationship around is me taking a stand about it. And I never forget. I never understood as to why my father would do certain things. He was an alcoholic, and I know that alcohol actually fueled a lot of his attacks. And I never forget, as I was at the age of 9, as I began to take a stand at him, it was that my mother received the physical and the verbal side, but then I would get to the verbal and the mental side. Never forget the things that my father would tell me. He always would tell me that you're stupid, that you're dumb. Never forget, he even told me one point, he said, I hate you and I hope somebody kill you. I said, whoa, I'm your son. One of the biggest fights we had, and never forget it, my father and I had a previous argument and I wasn't talking to him. And my mother had told me, she said, Quentel, go downstairs and get your phone. I said, okay, Mom. And he came in and said, Quentel, I'm gonna get the phone. Don't you worry about it. And like the rebel I was, I said, you know what? I'm not doing that. I'm gonna go get this phone and I'm not gonna pay you no mind. So I went downstairs, when he got the phone, and there he was in the hallway, standing right behind the door, right behind the door. And I said, excuse me, I'm trying to get him on the phone. He said, no, give me the phone. I'm going to give it to her. I said again, excuse me, I'm going to give her the phone. He said again, give me the phone now, Quentel. I said, excuse me, I'm going to get, and by that time he had already grabbed me. He grabbed me, we lived in a house at this time. He grabbed me and we had this banister here. And he tried to throw me over the banister, throw me down the stairs. And I'm hanging on for dear life, just clinging onto this banister. Never forget, my mother, she had opened the door and see what was going on, because she could hear me yelling. Because I'm yelling, stop, 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 as he tried to throw me down the stairs. And she called my older brother. My name is Quentel, my oldest brother's name is Tyrell. So she said, Tyrell, they're fighting, they're fighting. And as that had happened, he ran up the stairs and he tried to defuse the situation, only to have my father turn from me to him and start attacking my brother and tried to throw him down the stairs. And once that had happened, I was able to regain my ground and I started fighting him. But things didn't stop there. That's why I said that before we begin to really take anything and really look at really making an impact with it, we have to take a stand. I read a study and I read a statistic. It talked about childhood domestic violence. It says that 5 million homes each year are impacted by domestic violence. He even said that children who grew up in abusive homes, 50% of them are more likely to commit suicide, to turn to drugs and alcohol. Wow. And so as I looked at everything, and as I began to take the stand with everything, and I had to understand that one of the biggest things that I find that when looking at victims and the victim is commitment. My mother will always say, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave. But she never truly was serious. Never forget the final straw. And this was the final straw. Let us say together, the final straw.
The final straw.
My mother and father, at this point, things got so bad in the house to where they were sleeping in separate rooms. I stayed downstairs, and My mother was sleeping with my older brother. My younger brother. And from that point on, I never forget, being that I sleep downstairs, I heard a loud thump, boom. I said, what in the world's going on? And I got up, opened the door, went to the steps, and all I could hear my mother say, get off me, Randy. Get off me. Get off me, Randy. And what had happened was, throughout the middle of the night, he will come and, mess with her. And of course, in this time, he had somehow choked her. And she had rolled on the floor just to get out of the chokehold. And I said to myself, this is it. This was it. I said, I'm through with this. I said, because what I knew what was gonna happen. If I did not make, the commitment and say that enough is enough, that I would have been killed. I didn't go upstairs. Well, here's what I did do. I got the phone. We had a flip phone then. So I had a little flip phone, and I called the police. And by me called the police, and then they came, and I had notified all of my family members. But that was neither here nor there. Once I did that, she filed a written report. But this was very key. Months afterwards, he harassed us. There were even situations where he would call our phone. He would say, hey, I seen you leaving out for work this morning. We didn't even see him. We had another situation where you would see, the neighborhood was roughly small. And with the situation, pretty much, being that he knew everybody, he went and blasted everybody and told all our business. So not only did he know, but everybody in the neighborhood knew what was going on. Even times where my mother and I, we worked at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts. And I have a specific pathway where I took to work, and she had one as well. And even times where she would even meet him in the pathway. So what had happened from that point on, we decided to leave him out of our life. And I said, we're done. But this is why commitment is very important. He reached out to us, but had found out that he could not stay with anybody else. Most people have found out we weren't the problem, he was the problem. Everybody was like to say, well, y'all shouldn't do this. Well, y'all should do that. But then nobody really took the time to understand that he was the problem. And what had happened was everybody had kicked him out. And once he got kicked out, and we had later discovered there was a lie, he said that I am homeless. And because of us and because of our good hearts, my mother talked it over me. She said, Quentel, what do you think about letting him come back? I said, I don't know, but I won't be so happy about it, but I don't want him to be homeless. But this is why commitment is very important. It's very important. The next few months later, my father was on the phone. How many of you know people or family members, when they're on the phone, you can hear that whole conversation? Raise your hands, please. So my father, he was on the phone, he's very loud. He says, yeah, well, Francis, she always being rude, and she always been, I don't know what's wrong with her. And I just said, hold on. I heard him. And being that I had lived downstairs in the bottom room, went upstairs and confronted him. I said, how you gonna talk about my mother?